Hi all, a very good morning. So I'll quickly log in into my AWS account and then we'll get started for the day. So I hope I'm audible to everyone and you guys are also able to see the screen. So you guys can always communicate with me either by opening up your mic, or you can also put it in the chat box so that I'll be able to know what's going on, so that in case if you have any queries in between, always put it to the chat box, or you can also open up the mic and then speak out so that we can clarify all the things in between us. So all well. So we are good to start with it. Okay. So the very first thing that we are going to look with is the AWS global infrastructure, and then we are going to get started with the IAM service, that is identity and access management. That is the best and the first way to get started with the AWS console. So just giving you a short overview on what is region, what is availability zone. We are going to quickly navigate to the next part here. Okay. So as we all know, the global infrastructure of Amazon, how is it is set up, right? So basically they have something called as region and availability zone. So I'll just write it as AZ here. So in terms of regions, so they have got certain regions across the world. Now we all have seen in the slide yesterday where all the regions have been set up. I'll just quickly show you once again. So in this world map, we are able to see that there are a lot of circles, and each circle is basically a region where the Amazon has set up its infrastructure. And inside each circle, you see there are certain numbers, that is 2, 3, or sometimes 5. So each of this number basically represents the availability zone. Now, what is availability zone? Availability zone is basically a data center. So inside this here on the India map, if you see, there is one infrastructure set up by the Amazon, which is in Mumbai. And inside this, we have two availability zone, which means there are two data centers which are set up in the Mumbai region, and they both are independent from each other, which means, like, let's say we take an example of any city, it could be Hyderabad or Bangalore, anything as such. So whenever I want to set up any kind of data center for my company, let's say, so I would basically set it up in two different places, so that in case if there's any problem happening in one part of the city, still the second one will not be affected much. That way, in Mumbai, they have set up somewhere in South Mumbai, one of the data center, and one of them is in North Mumbai, so that both of them are far from each other, but both of them are interconnected to each other as well. So let's say if I want to zoom in into one of the specific region here, like let's say if I want to zoom in into this specific region, which is Sydney. So this has got three availability zones. So this is how it is going to appear. So this is the Sydney region, inside which I have got three availability zones. We see all of them are interconnected to each other. So even if one of them goes down, I still have my data available from the other availability zones. So that is the reason why it is termed with the name availability zone. So that was a little introduction on the global infrastructure part that I wanted to give before we proceed to the IAM section. So now, essentially, we're going to get started with IAM here. IAM basically is a part of security. So let's say now you have created an account for AWS in your company and you want to get started for the complete setup. So the first thing that we are going to look in is at IAM, because this is the place where I'm going to add the users who will have the access to my AWS account. So as I said, so if you are joining a company and you as an architect are setting up a complete scenario base for your company, then you have to define which users are going to have what level of access in the AWS console. So that is all being usually done in the IAM section here. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management, which allows you to manage users and their level of access to the AWS console. It is important to understand IAM, how it works, both for the exam as well as for administrating companies' AWS account in the real life. So not just for the administrating in companies, but also if you are planning to give up an exam for the AWS Solutions Architect Associate or Developer, this specific IAM section is surely going to help you up in here. So let's learn the advantages of IAM. So what does IAM give you? So basically it is centralized control of your AWS account. So the moment I create an account for myself, I'm going to have a complete control over it, and I can create a shared access. So let's say I want to define administrators for my company. So because if one of them is on leave or something as such, someone should also have the same authority. So specifically, I can also create a kind of shared access. So I will have a set of administrators available. Then the granular permissions. So you can define until what level a specific user will have access. So we can also define to a specific document that is getting uploaded on the AWS cloud, who will have access or who will not. So you can define it at a very smallest level as well on what kind of access will the user have. And then the identity federation. So in case if you think your company has got more than thousands of users, then it becomes difficult to add each user in this IAM section, right? So basically I can also integrate the Active Directory so that all my users will be able to directly use their ID password of the company itself. We can also do identity federation with the Facebook and LinkedIn. So sometimes you might have also seen websites these days, right? So the moment I go ahead and log in, it says sign in with Google or sign in with the Facebook as well, right? So how are they able to integrate those kind of things on their website or any kind of application? That is because they have this specific feature which is called as identity federation, which can be associated with any application that we are building on the cloud. So that can be specifically taken care of. So you can straight away use identity federation with Facebook, identity federation with the Gmail or LinkedIn as well. Multi-factor authentication. So in order to secure your AWS account, we also have a two-level of authentication. So if you already have an account with Paytm, we know how it works. The moment I enter the ID password, it is going to take you to a second level where it is going to send you a SMS, and only then you will be able to log in into the Paytm account. Similarly, when we are going down to our AWS account, it is important that we enhance this multi-factor authentication onto our account, so that in case, even though my ID and password get compromised at times, no one will be still able to access my AWS account. Provide temporary access for the users, devices, and services wherever necessary. So it might also sometimes happen that as a company, I might want to require to hire a third party engineer to solve some problems on my AWS cloud console, right? So my company might not have the people with equipped knowledge. So it does happen that we are, for security purposes, maybe we are actually hiring the third party companies employees. So we may want to give them only temporary access to our AWS account to solve the issue, and then thereafter, once their work is done, we are going to remove the access. So we can actually also provide a temporary access for the specific users as well as the devices and the services wherever it is necessary. It allows you to set up the own password rotation policy. So we can also set up a password rotation policy in the IAM. Password rotation policy is basically like you should have compulsorily one numeric character in your password, one special character in your password, one of them should be capital letter. So all those kind of things, if you want to define as the rules, so you can also define them in the IAM section here. It integrates with many different AWS services. So with IAM, you will be able to communicate a lot of services in the AWS, and then it also supports PCI DSS compliance. So let's learn about the important terms that are required for this IAM section. So first thing is users. Users are nothing but end users, right? Think about the people, anyone. It can be me, it can be you, anyone who just want to access the cloud console. That is basically the users. Groups. Now I can also create a group. Basically, group is nothing but collection of users under the one set of permissions. So let's say in my company, I have three of them as administrators, couple of them as a developers, and couple of them more as a testers. So I can actually create a group, and then I can define what all services will they have access in the AWS, right? So as an administrator, they will have full access. As a developer, they might have only access to the tools on which the development can be taken place, and as a tester they can be having access only to the specific set of tools from where they will be able to carry out the testing. And then we have something called as roles. Now we can create roles as well in the IAM, and we can actually assign it to the AWS resources. Now what are the AWS resources here? Let me log in into the console and show you here. So I'm already in my console here. So if I click on services, these are nothing but the AWS resources. So S3, EFS, Glacier, CloudWatch, CloudFormation, anything, any service that which you see here is basically called as a AWS resource. And specifically, we assign the role to these resources, right? Like the groups can be assigned to the users, roles can be actually assigned to the AWS resources. So it can be any of this service, as well as it can also be the user as well. So we can attach it to. And next we have policies. What is a policy? Policy is basically a document that defines one or more permissions, right? So with this, we will be able to define what kind of permission does a specific user will have, specific group will have, or specific role will have. So policies are basically something that can be attached to each of these things. As I said, it is a permission document. So this permission document needs to be attached to the user so that it will define what level of access this user is having, what level of access this group is going to have. So I'll just attach this permission document to the group, and it will help me to define what level of access they have. And then policies can also be attached to the role. So this will define what level of access this AWS service is going to have on any other AWS service. Let's say like in the EC2, we basically launch our virtual servers, and S3 is basically a storage. So if EC2 also if EC2 wants to talk to S3, then specifically in order to have it in the most secured method, I basically give role to this EC2, and then this EC2 will be able to talk to S3. So we are going to learn practically how these roles are actually used as well. So not to worry about it. So there might be things that might be confusing at times, but when we do it practically, you'll be able to understand it much more easier. Now we'll get quickly started with doing the first part of our lab today. So that is the best way to get started with the AWS Cloud Console. So I'm going to log in into one of my other AWS account as well. So I hope you guys would have get started with creating an AWS account. So if not, just get it done today so that you will be able to easily practice out all the labs that we are going to perform it here. So this is basically the multi-factor authentication. So it is asking me the second level password. So we are going to also learn how do we set it up in today's class. Okay, so I'm going to click on the services section and then I'm going to go down to IAM here. So remember, whenever we are going to get inside any of the service, we basically have to select the region here, right? Because whatever resources we are going to launch, that are going to be specific to that region itself. Like if you launch a virtual machine in North Virginia and then you are trying to search something in Mumbai and then you say that, okay, I launched one virtual machine, but I'm unable to find it. That would be because you are basically in different region from where you have launched. So most of the services are region specific, so you have to be appropriate about which region you want to work in and then get into that specific service. But the service that we are going to learn at this moment of time, which is IAM, is basically global service. So whatever user I create, it is going to be global across all the regions. So that is something is as required as well, right? So if I create a couple of users, then it is not possible that I have to create in Mumbai and again create the same user in some other region, maybe let's say Frankfurt or Sydney. It becomes a tedious task, right? So basically IAM is a global service. So whatever I create here, it is going to be a part of each and every region. So currently, if you see when I log in into my account, I am able to see that there are 5 green tick marks. Some dashboard is also displaying some resources what I have already. As well, it is also displaying the users link. Now let me show you how this is going to appear when you actually create a new AWS account. So I'll just wipe off everything from my AWS account here. So just pause the screen and I'm just wiping off everything. So I'm just making it into a kind of account that usually appears whenever I create a AWS account for the very first time. Just a second guys, it's taking a little longer. So there we go. Now you are able to see a kind of AWS account. It is when I create it for the very first time. So if you go ahead and check out on the dashboard, basically you will be able to see that this is part of a global, right? And then you will also be able to see a user sign in link here. So this is something that you're going to give it to all the users in your company. So once we try to set up a new account, let's say it's for the company and there are 10 users in the company, and for those 10 users to help in give access to the IAM section, I'm going to share this URL. And but this is little difficult for anyone to remember, right? So if I give you a user friendly name, that will be much easier for anyone to get through. So can we customize this number? Yes. Yeah, the way I set it up is just the reverse way of wiping it off. So I'll show you how do we do it. So if I click on customize here, so I'm just going to say, let's say I want to give a very user friendly name. I'll just say AWS training 2017. Let's see if it is available, and whatever name you want to give it for your alias account here, basically that is the user friendly name, that whatever you want to give here, it should be unique. If someone has already taken this, then you will not be able to get it. Let's see if it is available. So it says someone has already taken this up. I'll just try to put hyphen and see if it is available. So that is also taken up. I'll just put it as 18. There we go. So we are able to get it. So the first part is setting up the user link, which is friendly in order to be shared with anyone, so that I can tell them the link is very simple: AWS training 2018.signin.aws.amazon.com. And if they go to this, they will be specifically able to, one sec guys. Okay, so the first part was setting up the user link which is friendly. Now, as this, there was also a question on the chat box here, how did I wipe it off? It is very simple. So if I have to click on customize here, I say delete, it is going to actually delete this, and it is going to get back to the same old, the way it was before. Now if you guys are wondering what is the special number that is going to appear here, mostly it is going to be my AWS account number. Let me check it out. Yeah, so it is my AWS account 2420. Yes, so it is the AWS account number that usually is shown up, and .signin.aws.amazon.com/console. So if you want to make it a user friendly name, it should be again unique one, so someone has already occupied that name, you will not be able to use it. So again, I'm going to get it back to AWS training 2018 and then create it. So there we go. So it is now done. And next it is showing what all resources are actually available in this IAM section. IAM, as we know, is identity and access management. So to whom all will be able to give access, it is basically the users or the groups or the roles, right? So we are basically defining what is available. So currently everything is 0 0 0 0 and 0, right? So we are going to add and create a lot of new users, lot of groups, lot of roles, as well as some policies and other things in our AWS account. So we are going to get these numbers up in a very little while. In the meantime, if I go ahead and scroll little down here, you see that I have only one green tick mark and all rest of them are the yellow warning marks. So as a part of the first lab, we are going to convert all these orange warning marks into the green colored tick mark. So how do we do it? So the first one is delete your root access keys, and it is already enabled with the green colored tick mark. Now, let me tell you the very first thing here. So whenever we create an account in IAM, or if you create it for any other user in IAM, let's say, there are two ways to access AWS. One is user ID and password that we basically use, right? So I go to my computer, I open up the Chrome browser, I say aws.amazon.com, then I say I want to sign into console, and then I give the user ID and the password. That is the first method to log in. And the second method to get logged in is access key and the secret access key. So basically we would use access key and the secret access key in terms only when I want to connect from command line or software development kits or APIs. So these are the methods when I would like to use the access key and the secret access key to get connected to the AWS console, right? So if you want to see the console from a browser perspective, it is user ID and the password. But if you want to get inside the AWS in terms of other ways, it is that is command line interface, or maybe the software development kits, or maybe the APIs. We basically use the access key and the secret access key. So there are two ways in which we can access the AWS. One is user ID and the password, and the access key and the secret access key. So whenever we are creating an account, we are basically the owner. So I am the owner of this new AWS account. So it displays my name, and it is also saying that I'm the root user basically for this AWS account. So delete your root access keys. Now, if someone gets a hold of access key and secret access key of my AWS account, then my account is going to be on toss, right? Someone, because I am a root user, and if someone gets access key and the secret access key, then it is going to create a lot of troublesome situation for me, because someone can go ahead and launch anything. It can be a virtual machine, it can be a database, it can be a storage machine, anything. So if he wants to play around in my AWS account, he can do it with the access key and the secret access key. So it is always recommended practice that you should never have your root access keys. So by default, Amazon will delete the root access keys for your AWS account. Whoever has created it, by default you will see that the first one will be automatically in the green tick mark. So if you want to check it out, you can just go down to click on this manage security credentials, and then say that I want to continue to security credentials, and then here it is. You click on access keys, and you'll be able to see that here I had actually created once, but I deleted it on the same day. The moment I created it, that was on June 4th 2016, I created a access key, and then I had deleted it back. I was just testing what happens in this case, but yes, I have deleted it back, because it is always recommended that you should not have this access key ID and the secret access key, because if this gets compromised, then anyone will be able to log in into your AWS account from their command line interface, and then they will be able to spin up any resource on your AWS account. So remember, never ever try to create an access keys for your root account. If you really require access keys, I'll tell you the way what we have to do. So specifically, we'll create individual IAM users. Maybe you can create one more user with your name itself, and who will have limited access. Let's say you want to access RDS, that is database, and you specifically what you can do is you can create a user with your name itself who just has access to the RDS, and you can create access key ID and the secret access key for the new user that you are adding up. That is the way basically we'll deal the situation with, but never ever create the access keys for your root account, because root account will have complete access across the AWS. So that was the first one, which is already with a green tick mark. Now, in order to secure our account, right? So by default, what has Amazon done? So this access is anyway not available for the root account. Now, in order to secure with the user ID and the password as well, Amazon has actually given one more way. So that is, on top of the user ID and password, you can enable MFA. MFA is basically multi-factor authentication. So as you saw, whenever I was logging in into my account, I was also entering the second level password. So how can you set it up for your AWS account? So it's very simple. Just click on this activate MFA, and then I'll click on manage MFA. So it is going to ask you whether you are having a virtual device or a hardware device. Now, I'm sure if some people who are already on this call today, so maybe they would have, some of them would have already worked in software industry. So some of them would have seen something called as RSA token. Let me show you how it appears. Yeah, so this is the RSA token. So some of the people who have already worked in IT industry might have seen that some of the colleagues in your company have this RSA secure ID, right? So there is one small number, 6-digit number, which keeps changing every 15-20 seconds. So this is the timer on the left hand side. If you see, there are 5 to 6 lines. So this keeps changing here. If you see, there's one line. So whenever this lines exhaust, this number is going to change. So basically it is like we have this number specifically for 15 to 20 seconds, and then it is going to change across. So this is a hardware device. So if you already have a RSA token and if you want to integrate with it, you can do as well. Or if you want to integrate with a virtual device, like some software application that you want to install in your mobile or computer and get it done, you can also do with it. So I'm going to select a virtual MFA because hardware MFA we don't have anything as such. So I'm going to say virtual MFA and click next step. So it is going to tell me that in order to activate a virtual MFA, I must first install the AWS MFA compatible application in a smartphone, either a PC or any other device where it can work. And if you want to find out what are the list of devices which are compatible, I can click here. Let's see what are the list of devices which are compatible. Okay, so we are talking about multi-factor authentication. I'll just scroll down a little down. Here it is. So we have different types of devices like virtual, hardware, and as well as the SMS type. Okay, so if you're going for virtual MFA device, it is completely free. Now, if you want to go for any of the hardware device, you have to basically pay the charges on the yearly basis. That is $12.99 per year or $19.99 per year. So that is going to cost us if you're going to use a hardware device. And then we also have SMS. So if you want, whenever you're going to log in, it should send a 6-digit special token on the way with the help of SMS. You can also enable this, but again, they are going to charge you for any number of SMS that are going to be sent across. So as such, we see in the Paytm, right? The moment I enter the Paytm ID password, it is actually going to ask me for a 6-digit password that is sent as a OTP. So they are basically using the SMS as a second level authentication in this case. And we are going to use virtual MFA, which is completely free. Now, as a part of virtual MFA, what are the devices that are supported and what is the application that we need to download on our smartphone? Now, Most of them would be either on the Android or the iPhone, or some of them may be still using Windows. I'm not sure. There are very few people who use the Windows phones, but most of them either have an Android or an iPhone. Now, if you guys are holding any one of these devices, just go down to your Android Play Store or maybe Apple iStore, and then straight away download this Google Authenticator or Authy two-factor authentication. So my choice would be just to pick up with the Google Authenticator. That's very easy to get started with. So how do you install it? So just go to play.google.com and you will be able to see the application, and straight away you can get it installed either from your browser, or you can also open up the Play Store in your mobile and you'll be also able to install from there. So I'll just go ahead and put it here. I'll just say Google Authenticator. So there we go. The very first one that appears with the gray colored G symbol is the one that is from the Google itself. That is called as Google Authenticator. And if someone is trying to use this one, that is Authy two-factor authentication, they can go for this as well. So I'm going to pick this one up. Now currently it says it's already installed in my mobile. So if I click on this, it's basically going to show where it is installed. So basically it says it's already installed on my mobile, so it doesn't require any more else anything yet. So in case if it's not installed, you guys can also click it from here from the browser and get it installed in your mobile, or you can also directly go to the Play Store in your mobile and download this application with the name Google Authenticator. Now what happens the moment you're going to get inside the Google Authenticator? So it's very simple. The moment you're going to download the application and get started with it, it is going to load this home screen, which says that it is going to allow you to turn on the two-level authentication for not just Gmail account, but also on any other accounts we want. Like specifically, we are looking for the Amazon AWS accounts. And then you click on begin here. And then the moment you click on begin, it says that you have to sign in into your Google account. It is your Gmail. So first sign in with your Gmail ID and password, and then you will be able to see this option where it says what all accounts would you like to add. So you can add these days a lot of accounts here. You can also add a Facebook, you can also add a LinkedIn, you can also add Gmail, AWS, and a lot more. Like most of the companies do support these two-level authentications, so you can add across all of them into this. So how do we basically do it? Specifically, you have to click on this scan a barcode. So when I click on scan a barcode, let me show you where it appears. So now let me go back to my IAM. So we have already installed our AWS MFA compatible application on the smartphone, and the next thing is I click on next step here. Here is my barcode that is going to appear. So in my mobile application, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on scan a barcode, and I'll scan this specific barcode, and immediately it is going to give me a 6-digit number like this. Right, so if you have two different accounts, let's say one is your Gmail account and one is your AWS account, so it is going to show you two of them like this. So for each one account you have a separate 6-digit number. So this is a 6-digit number that will appear up. So what you have to do is copy the 6-digit number, put it across here, let's say 137130 itself, and then as I said in the RSA token also, this is a timer which is going to expire. Similarly in this case, this is the timer here. So if you see, this timer is now at the half level, or if you see it here, it is at it has just started. So this timer is going to basically expire, and automatically this number is going to change. So whenever this number changes, enter that second number. Maybe let's say I'll just say this is the one, and then click on activate virtual MFA. It is going to get it done. So I'll just pause the screen for a while and I'll just set up the MFA on my account. So I have opened up my Google Authenticator, and I also opened up the application, and then I'm going to click across into the so I'm scanning the barcode now, and it has displayed the first 6-digit number. So I'm going to enter it first 6-digit number. And I'm just waiting for the first number to get timed out. There we go. I got a new number now. I'll go ahead and activate virtual MFA. So once I click on activate virtual MFA, this is the screen that you will be able to see. That is, MFA device was successfully associated with your account. I'll just click on finish, and let's refresh the screen and see that this should be in a green color tick mark. Great. There we got the second green tick mark. Let's check out whether the MFA has really been activated or not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and log out of all this, and I'm going to log out from AWS account, and then log in back again to see if I'm able to get through. Okay, I'll click on sign in into the console. I'll click on my user ID and password. There we go. It is going to ask me for the second level password. Let me enter and check it out if it is working fine. So there we go. It successfully authenticated me across the 6 digits that I keyed in from the Google Authenticator. So let's go back to our service IAM and get started with the next level. So we were successfully able to attach the multi-factor authentication with our AWS account. So next is I'll start creating the individual IAM users. So currently I do not have any, and it also shows 0 users, and it also says it is in a warning mark. Let's go ahead and create one. I'll click on manage users. So here it is going to take you from dashboard to the second level, that is users. So I'm quickly going to create one user here. Let's say the name of user is test user. So if you want to create multiple users at the same time, you can also do as well. So currently I'm going to create only one of them. And as I said, there are two types of accesses. One is programmatic access. Second is console access. So in terms of programmatic access, we use access key ID and the secret access key, which is basically used whenever I am trying to communicate with the help of APIs or the command line interface, that is CLI, or SDK, that is software development kit. So if I'm using any of these methods, that is API or CLI, that is command line interface, and the SDK, that is software development kit, I would basically require the access key and the secret access key. So we are going to learn about this case in our future part of our labs. Currently, I'm going to just enable the console access for this new user, which I'm setting it up, that is test user. And then it is saying, would you like to generate a password, or would you like the system to get it generated? So if you want to generate it, you can click on custom password and enter something from your side. or let the system generate it. I don't want to interfere with it. So let the system generate the new password for me and give it for this user, and requires a password reset. So we all see that whenever we receive any banking application, or whenever you open up a bank account and get your internet banking started, right? So the moment you log in with the password for the very first time, it asks you to reset it. Similarly, in this case, I am also going to ask the end user to go ahead and reset the complete password. So I'll just enable this part and then click on next permissions. So basically, is it asking what kind of permission would you like to give this user? So if you already have a group, you can add this user to a group, or if you already have some other user whose permissions you want to copy and give this as same as to this person, you can as well do that. Or you can directly attach a permission document as well. So there are three ways. One is adding a group, or maybe just copying the permissions from the existing user, or directly adding a policy. So I'm not going to add any one of them here. I'll leave blank. We'll later add any one of them. I'll show you how to add it. I'll just click on review. So what did we do in this part here? So we created a username with the test user, and then access type, we basically gave the console access, and the password is auto generated, and the very first time he logs in, he has to reset the password. And we didn't give any permissions attached to this user, but by default this policy has got attached to this user, that is IAM user change password, because the moment is going to log in, it is going to ask him to change the password, right? So automatically the change password policy has been applied to this user, even though we have not given explicitly as such. So I'm going to click on create user. So there we go, our first user is created, and now it is showing up me the username and then the password as well here itself. And then it is also asking me, if you want to send an email, you can directly send an email to the user from here, or you can also download a CSV file. Now this is the very first time and the last time that you are going to see this user ID and the password, so it is better that you go ahead and download this file. Remember, this is the first time and the last time that you will be able to see this password for the user, so better you download it, and then you can later send this file to the user in a email or something else. So I'm going to download the file and open it up. So this is what the file contains. Basically it contains the username, it contains the password. Currently we have not enabled the access key and in the secret access key, so it is going to be blank. And then it's also going to give the console link where the user has to log in. Now as we all know, this user doesn't have any level of access apart from changing the password when he gets into the first time. So let's get it going. So I'll click on close here. So I am already done with creating a user. Now I'm going to open up the Internet Explorer. Let's say this is a new user with the name test user who's going to log in. So how is he going to get inside? So basically he is going to use, one sec. Yeah. So he's going to use this console link. So let's say now test user wants to access it. So he'll go to the Internet Explorer and he'll open up this URL. So the moment he opens up that URL, it says that he is going to log in into this account, and then he has to log in with the test username, that is test user, and the password. Let's copy it from the Excel sheet. It's a randomly generated password by system, so it's a little difficult to remember this. So I'll just go ahead and put it across by copying. Now it is going to ask me to the change password. So the first thing is I'm going to put old password, then the new one. So So I have set up a new password and then I'm going to click on change the password. So successfully we have been able to change the password and it is now taking me to the AWS console. So it is going to show me this like this way. It says the name of the user, that is test user, at the AWS account name is AWS training 2018. And now currently the user is in Ohio region, so he can go ahead and change to a specific region that he wants to go to. Maybe let's say since the user is from India, I would like him to stick with Mumbai region itself. Okay. So as we all know that this user doesn't have any access apart from just changing the password, but still he's able to log in into console and he's also able to see the services. Let's see if he has some access to store something. I'll just go to one of the storage service, that is S3. So it says error, access is denied, right? So he'll not be able to access any of this service. Now the next step is we are going to give access to this user, but we are going to see how we are going to give it. So I'm going to again go back to dashboard and see that there's a third green tick mark. That is, by creating an individual IAM user, I have enabled the third green tick mark. And the fourth one is use groups to assign the permission. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group. I'm going to assign the permission to the group, and then I'm going to add the user that we have just created. So let's get down to creating the groups. I'll click on this here and say manage groups, and it's going to take me to the second level in the IAM section, that is groups. And I'm going to click on creating a new group. So I'll just say that I want to give S3 access to this user. Right, S3 is basically one of the service in this case here, that is a storage service which is called as simple storage service. So I want to give access to only that specific service, and I'll click the name. So this is the name of the group that I'm going to give in, and then I'll click on next step. So it is going to ask me the policy that you want to get it attached with. Policy is nothing but a permission document. Now if I scroll this permission document, you can scroll this for ages together. There are lots and lots of permission documents which are available in this case. So if you see, all these permission documents come with a yellow mark here, which means this policy is actually prepared by Amazon. So basically there are two different types of policies. If you click on this policy type arrow here, it says AWS managed or the customer managed. So whether it is managed by AWS or the customer. So if you create your own policy, that will not have this yellow bookmark here. If this yellow bookmark is available, you can be sure that this policy has been actually created by the Amazon. So I'm going to find out the policy document. So it's always better to use the filter. In this case, I'm just going to type S3. So in relation to the S3, I have four different policies. So I'm going to pick up the first one, that is Amazon S3. Second one, that is Amazon S3 full access. So I'm going to give the full access to this user and then say next step. So in this step, it is going to asking me to review what we have done. So I have created a new group with the name S3 access, and then the policy that we have attached is basically Amazon S3 full access. And then I'm going to click on create group. So we were successfully able to create a group, but currently it says there are no users in this group. So let's go ahead and add the users. So I'm going to select this user and then just say add users. Right? It's very simple. Just select the name of the group here, S3 access, and then click on group actions and then say add users to the group, and then you will be able you will be displayed the name of the user and add them across. It is done. Now let's get back to our Internet Explorer and refresh the screen and see if the user has really received the access here. There we go. He has received the access. Earlier he was getting error. Now there is no error. He's able to see that there are 0 buckets and there is nothing inside this AWS account, right? So he can get started by creating a bucket. Let's see if he has got access. I'll just type some random name and I want to create this bucket in Asia Pacific and then say create. Right, so he's able to create it as well. Right, let's see if we can delete it as well. It is not deleted yet. Yeah, so he has got access to create, delete the bucket or do anything as such in this specific service called as S3. Now let's check out if he has got access to any other service as well. I'll click on EC2. Let's say if he has got any access here. So it says you are not authorized, which means this specific user has got access only to a specific service with the name S3, nothing else. So we can be sure that our account is secure whenever we are actually creating any users, and whatever level of permission we are going to attach them, that is the only thing that they'll be able to see through. So that was a part of our creating groups. Now let's go back to dashboard and see what is the status. I'll click on refresh. Yeah, there we go. We were able to get 4 green tick marks and one last one is pending yet. I'm going to click on apply IAM password policy. So I'm going to click on manage password policy. So as I just said, password policy is nothing but whenever a new user is created in our AWS account and whenever they're going to actually create their new password, right? The very first time they're going to log in, they have to create their new password, right? So whenever they're going to set the password, I'm just going to tell them that it should always require one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, one number, and also one non-alphanumeric number or character. And this password is going to expire every 90 days, maybe let's say I'm going to keep it as, and then prevent the password reuse. So I'm going to say that this password cannot be reused for the 3 times, right? So all these policies can actually be acrossly set across, and so I'll say apply the password policy. So now any user that gets created in my AWS account, he has to follow these rules. So every 90 days their password is going to get expired and they have to basically go ahead and reset it up. And whenever they are trying to reset, they have to follow these rules, which says it should have one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, one numeric number, and one non-alphanumeric number as such. So now if I go back to dashboard here, you will be able to see that all of the 5 green tick marks are achieved, right? So we were able to successfully complete up the activity for the day, but still there's one small thing that I would like to show you. We were able to create the users in the groups. Let's quickly get started by creating a role. However, we are not going to use the role at immediately in practice. We are going to use it in our future labs, maybe after 1 week when we are into the EC2 section. We are going to use the roles, but not now. So I'll go ahead and click on create role here. So it basically asks me the role would you like to associate with the AWS service or to some other AWS account, or in order if you want to get attached to the web identity like Google, Facebook, Amazon, LinkedIn sign in. So if you can use this, or if you want to integrate with the Active Directory, you can go with the SAML Federation. For now, we are going to create this for the AWS service itself. So in our case, I'm trying to give access to this EC2 section, get access to the storage that is S3. So how I'm going to do it? So I'm going to click on AWS service. So what service would you like to attach this to? It is basically EC2, and in the EC2 that is the first one, and I'll click on next permissions. So what permission would you like to attach? I am planning to attach S3 permissions, that is S3 full access. And then next review. So I'm going to give the name of the role. I'll just say S3 admin access. I'll also say EC2 here. So EC2 S3 admin access. So what is the description of the role? You can put something here. Allows EC2 instances talk to S3. So here you can see that we are trying to trust EC2 and then we are giving permission to S3. So by trusting the EC2, we are going to attach this policy of S3 full access, and then I'm going to say create a role. So there we go. We are successfully able to create a role as well, right? So we are going to make use of this role in the future part of our lab, which is maybe 1 week from now when we are in the EC2 section. So that was all about the class today. So any questions, queries from anything from your side, guys, on today's part of the topic? Rahul, Suhaib, Vikas, Raghavendra, Divya, any questions, queries, or doubts before we can close it for the day? Yeah, I'm going to share in the PPTs as well. Others, were you able to follow it up? Raghavendra, Rahul, Suhaib, are you guys able to follow? Great. So that was all about the IAM section today that we learned. So I would request you all guys to go ahead, create your AWS account, and then play around and get started by exploring the first part, that is IAM services. And we are going to meet back on Monday at the same time to get exploring the new service, that is S3 is the next part of the service that we are going to learn across. So that is it from today, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll meet back again on Monday at 7 to start exploring the next part of our class. In the meantime, this video will be uploaded by the visual path and it will be shared across to your Gmail accounts, the drive link, and you guys will be able to download the PPT as well as the video and then get started by creating your AWS account and exploring it much more. Thanks. Bye all.